Torpedo and Geno 212. Com check.
DPS, go. Inco, go. PUS, go. Surgeon, go. Booster, go. Copy that. We have a go from you guys.
This is Talking Sound.
Well, hello everybody, and welcome once again to the Talking Sound podcast, the only podcast on the internet where negative 10 is a number to be desired, coming at you live from the throbbing heart of rock and roll, that is Austin, Texas. I am Chris Jordan, your host, and today I am very, very happy to have my neighbor here at the Austin Music Rooms, Mr. Geno Stroia from the Red Leaf Music School. How you doing, man?
Good to see you, Chris.
It's funny. I've been here in this studio space for right at a year, and numerous times walked right past your sign out front, right past your front door, and it wasn't until recently that I guess you came to me with a repair need, and it was like, hey, all right, great. I've actually been really remiss in asking you to come on my show. I've passed by your sign so many times and been like, I need to go in there. Rusty says Geno is a hell of a guy. I need to go in there and meet him and actually have him on my show sometime.
Well, thank goodness gear breaks down. So
it does. It does. The mortality of gear can help many people meet sometimes.
And great job on the repair, by the way.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad to hear it's still working well.
Yeah.
Well, tell us a little bit about yourself, Geno, how long you've been playing music, and what brought you to play music.
Okay. Well, let's see. I've been in Austin about 25 years, and I've been playing guitar since I was a kid, probably 8 years old.
Oh, wow.
And but originally from Alliance, Ohio, and I was born and raised there, and I moved to Austin in January of '92. I love music, and I just thought, well, maybe I'll be able to put something together there, and if not, at least I'd be around, great players and great music. It felt like the place where I was supposed to be, and I as soon as I moved here, I knew I'd found a home for me away from home, and it's been fantastic. I didn't know if I was ever gonna be able to kind of get that far with it, but it's worked out. So
you actually moved here to Austin to play music specifically?
I did.
Wow. And that was 25 years ago, you
right.
said. Now, I'm sure you've been involved in numerous incarnations of things since then.
Yeah.
What was it that really brought you to want to play music to begin with? That's always a story for me whenever I meet a fellow musician.
Yeah.
What is it that really kind of drew you to that?
Yeah. I don't know, the earliest influences or the memories that I have were at my grandparents' house, and I had a record collection there that was some of theirs, but mostly my mom's and my uncle's. They had a pretty good record collection there. And so there were a lot of 45s, old stuff, that I was really drawn to, the Chuck Berry stuff. And
yeah.
A lot of some of it was 50s pop, but then there's a lot of Beatles records, and there's a lot of Motown, and there's just a lot of Elvis Presley. And there's just a lot of all of those things kind of melded together. And then my grandma, she kind of had a taste that was pretty varied also, like where you'd get Nat King Cole, and then Dean Martin, and then Freddie Fender.
Right.
Yeah, so it was a lot of Freddie Fender. I remember that.
Yeah.
Growing up too. So no real musicians in my family though.
Oh, wow.
I just kind of thought it was something that my heart told me I could do it, but it was a long time, a lot of work to try to make that happen. It wasn't as easy as I thought as a 7 or 6 year old kid.
Oh yeah. Of course, you've got the pie-eyed dreams.
The practice part I forgot about. I didn't know about that.
Well, and it's funny because I had an acoustic duo for a while, and my upright bassist used to say it all the time, like, "Hey, we'll come play anywhere for free, but you got to pay us for all the rehearsal time.
That's it.
You gotta pay us for all that time that we spent getting back and forth to the rehearsal space and practicing and everything else.
Play for free and get paid to travel and load gear.
That's it.
Yeah,
that's it. Exactly.
That's it.
And I guess my story's somewhat the same. I actually, I remember growing up with my grandfather playing accordion, things like that. Mm-hmm. But he was really the only musically inclined person in my family that I knew of, other than like a second cousin, something like that, who ended up melding rock and roll and Cajun music for the first time.
Right.
It was really interesting. And really groundbreaking, actually. But other than that, there was nobody in my family that really played music.
And where was that at?
That was actually the east side of Houston. But,
okay.
I come from a Cajun family.
Sure.
And, there was always music around the campfire, something like that at the hunting lease. But, I came across music and just, I guess I was in choir, things like that, and eventually learned an instrument and taught myself, and it just
cool.
became this all-consuming passion. Right. And it's interesting to me to see how people get sucked in by that siren. You know, like when they first heard the siren's call and decided, like, ooh, what's that interesting sound over there?
Yeah. Well, I think what's interesting also is that sometimes it's just, you know, where you're kind of supposed to be in the world. You know, like I think I have a lot of folks that kind of move around a lot, and it takes them a while, and some people never do, find where they're supposed to physically actually be. Yeah. And I loved growing up in Alliance, Ohio. There was no... it was great, you know, but I realized as I got older that I didn't really feel like musically that was really going to get me where I needed to be, and I kind of wanted to go to what I call, you know, at least in the music I listen to, kind of the epicenter of that, and be around that, you know, and that seemed to be the driving force of why I picked Austin, and I had you know, lived in around Houston and growing up a little bit too. I mean, it's not full time, but in summers I'd spend, you know, with my mom over there, and that was really cool too. Just to get out of that small town and see some other things in the world. Yeah. You know, when you're a kid, you think that's your whole world is just that town. Absolutely. And then when you get out of there, you go, wow, there's all this other stuff. So I think I kind of fell in love with Texas as a kid. Yeah. And then when I started finding out about Austin, you know, then it you know, really intrigued me, and I thought, well, worst case scenario, you could always go back, you know. Yeah. But I never planned on going back. Oh no, I mean, that was never. I really thought that I could do it. It's that card that you keep in your back pocket just in case, but it's not the one you plan to pull anytime. Yeah. I've been there myself. Now, when you did finally make that jump and move here, what kind of music, let's kind of go through your musical journey as far as like what you were playing then and what you've matured to now as a musician, because you've got some really incredible stuff going on. Well, I'd say when I first moved here, and just to kind of set that up, like I worked, you know, like a day job for about 10 years, a couple of different ones, and some good ones actually, that I'm glad I did. To have that kind of real world kind of experience, but I always played in bands the whole time. But I really was kind of, you know, developing, you know, still for me musically, I was getting here and trying to figure it out and learn a lot, you know. Yeah. But you know, it's ironically enough, you know, like I'm pretty open-minded musically, but there's definitely things that I gravitated to, and some of those things that I gravitated to at my earliest days, like I still listen to. Yeah. You know, which I think is really cool. It's not like I was like, I've met people before, it was like they had a metal period and then they had a country period because you could make money playing, you know, and like they change and do these really wide different things. Like, I don't know if I've really ever done that. You know, it's like I'm still listening to Albert King and John Lee Hooker and Howlin' Wolf. You know what I mean? Like, still listen to the same thing that influenced you to begin with. Yeah, I mean, I might just, you know, if I've just gotten maybe a little bit better at doing it. You know, it's kind of like, you know, you figure more out. You know, you can listen to those records over and over and learn something new, like, every time. Oh, yeah. And that's what I like about those records. So, you know, I mean, you know, obviously, locally, you know, Vaughan Brothers and... Oh, absolutely. And you know, the Archangels and all that stuff was really... I mean, that was my kind of bread and butter, you know. But musically, their influences were my influences, too, you know. Yeah. I found out about some of those people through those guys. You know, listening to those records. Yeah. You'd hear Stevie talk about Albert King, and then like, oh, I got an Albert King record. Yeah. You know, and so I still listen to those records, and having the music school, I show folks, old and young, those songs. And even if they think they might not like blues or roots music or rock and roll or whatever, initially, they somehow eventually kind of get that there is a foundation there. Yep. And I think it's a really good kind of thing to know a little something about, no matter what kind of music you ultimately fall in love with and do. You know, it doesn't have to be a certain kind. You know, it could just be good. Well, and you know, that's it. You know, it's interesting that you say that, because I mean, to me, growing up in Houston, I went to blues clubs all the time. I mean, we had quite a few there in town that were great. You know, Shakespeare's Pub, stuff like that. And
I had always gravitated to that, I guess, because there was an element of improvisation that occurred. You know, you listen to a lot of styles, especially a lot of Americana styles of music, you know, bluegrass, things like that, American roots music, and they really end up with these repetitive patterns, you know, and like specific patterns in which you play them. Yeah. You know, kind of like banjo pick patterns and things like that. There are specific patterns that you play, and though there is that in the blues and there are set meters to the way it moves, there's always improvisation going on within it. And, you know, I guess that's what always drew me to jam bands. That's what always drew me to bands like Pink Floyd, stuff like that really influenced me as a musician, was that sense of improvisation. And
Stephen Bruton always had a great quote about that. When in the 2000s, I had a band here for, I don't know, 8 years or something called the Gene Pool. Mm-hmm. And we played, one of our gigs was we played every Sunday at the Saxon Pub after the Resentments.
Nice.
And so I got to know Bruton pretty well, and he was always good for, he had great quotes, and just, you know, he was an amazing musician, but also a really great person. And he would say, nothing stays the same but the changes.
That's,
you know, and I was like, I always thought that was pretty cool.
That's great. I like that.
But Stephen was awesome, and you know, that's just one of many, you know, wonderful musical experiences that I've had living in Austin. I mean, it's given me so much, and so much. It's you know, made me feel a part of something, and at the same time, you're always keep reaching for the next rung on the ladder because everyone's so good. Yeah. And you're just, you know, everybody just keeps working at their craft.
Yep. And, you know, it is interesting because Austin does have that gardening culture when it comes to music. They really do. And some of it's kind of become endangered now. The whole concept of just like musicians out on the street playing music, stuff like that. Right. But they still absolutely encourage music anywhere. Like, it's amazing, you know, you can, just this last year, I guess it was during South by, I turned on the radio and every single channel had a live show going on. Yeah. Even the classical station was actively at a venue doing a live show during South by. And it was like, wow, what other city in the country are you going to live in where every single station on the radio that morning is out at a live event with live local musicians? Yeah. Like, that's pretty incredible.
Well, the thing is, too, is that, you know, it's sometimes it's difficult conversation to have, even with yourself about this, because you're getting older. You've been at this thing for a long time, and you've had various levels of success, but you love doing it, and you can't really do, there isn't anything else that's more in your heart to do except play. At the same time, you're getting older and you're seeing this change. So Austin obviously is 25 years different than when I got here.
Sure.
But it's all perspective, right? It's kind of like where you kind of entered the movie.
Yeah.
Because when I moved here in 92, there were people that had been here 25 years and
talking about the same thing 70s, I'm talking about
the 70s, and that how wonderful that was, and how in 92 how it had all went to hell in a handbasket.
Hippie Hollow just ain't the way it was.
Yeah, and now you're another 25. So, you know, and as you get a little more, for me, like, you know, to middle age, you know, it's a little different.
Yeah.
But Austin, I think sometimes, even with all those changes that we may or may not agree with, sometimes can get a little bit of a bad rap because the reality is, anytime I've ever had that feeling of disconnect with the city, or where I'm kind of like, you know, I don't know, it's changing in a way that's not maybe a way that it feels great to me or something. You go out of town for a little while
and then come back,
and then you know, I always come back around to go, you know what? Austin's fine.
Yeah.
And it's going to be fine, and it's going to keep changing, and there's always going to be people looking for the real stuff.
Yep.
You know, and so no matter what comes and goes, fads and trends and all those other things, you're always going to have a certain group of, or ilk of person that really wants to get the highest quality and the most genuine and real type of art they can get.
Yep.
And so if you just focus on trying to put out the best stuff you can, all of the rest of it will either work itself out or it won't.
Well,
and that's okay.
And that's what I love is the fact that, you know, it's always been said that it's a musician's town. Really, it's an artist's town.
Right.
It's an artist town. And it's a town that utterly encourages people to be different, do the music that you want to do, there is a home for it here somewhere.
Yeah.
And nothing is really and truly discouraged. Now, you yourself, having come from Ohio, moved to Texas, and been immersed in this scene for 20 years, what was it that made you want to start teaching music? When did you make that turn and decide not only were a musician, but you wanted to be a teaching musician? You wanted to be somebody that passed this on?
It would have been about 2001 or 2, I think, somewhere in there.
Okay.
I was working for a company called SAP, a software company, and of course everything kind of did a downturn, and they closed the Austin office.
Yep.
And at that point, I was really at a kind of a crossroad. A band that I was in for quite a while had kind of disbanded. I was going through a divorce, and I lost my job all within like 6 months. I mean, like, it was just like complete change. So I think I had resolved at that point, instead of fighting all of these things that were happening, I just let it all get, I just said, look, I'm just going to go with it. I'm going to run with it that way. At that point, I'd been here 10 years, and I said, I just had that heart-to-heart with myself, and I said, if you want to do this full-time, you want to do it, and you've wanted to do it full-time, this is your chance to do it. This is a put up or shut up kind of moment here. And so I made a list of all the things I thought in the music and art world that I could do, whether it generated, I thought, potentially any money at all or not. I just made a big list. And then off of that list, I circled the things that I thought I would want to try, that I thought I might be able to do. And I said, well, I'm going to try these first few things, see how that goes.
Yep.
I had a little bit of severance and unemployment from the layoff, so it gave me a runway of 6 months. And I said, maybe I could teach guitar. Like, I'm not a degreed music. I'm probably like the least qualified teacher at our school. Like, technically.
Sure.
But that's before I knew what a good teacher is not, it's not always the technical part. It's, you have to, there are other things. And so I put an ad in the Chronicle, and I can't remember what financially I started out at. I think I just put an ad for guitar lessons, and I forget if it was like,
it's like
$20 an hour or something or whatever it was. And about the third person that called me, I got a student, and I was like, wow, I got a student. Now what? Like, I didn't know anything about teaching guitar, And about the third call that I got was a guy that said, hey, I saw your ad in the Chronicle, and but I'm a little concerned because are you any good? And I just kind of went like, I don't know, kind of caught me off guard. And I said, I don't understand. Like, what do you mean? And he said, because the rate's so cheap that
I kind of have to wonder if you're any good.
So that was a lesson in
two lessons rolled up in one.
Undervaluing almost sent out the wrong message.
Yeah.
Also, I thought by
Absolutely.
undervaluing, I just was trying to get some students in there to see if I could do it. But really, what it was, to some people, it gave them the wrong message. So, with all of that said, I kind of started a little practice of teaching, and I was teaching out of the house I was living in, and I did that for a couple years. And then I had a little studio at Music Lab on Old Torf for maybe 3 years. And then in 2007, a few months before that, I'd done some shows with a guy named Dan Barrett from a band Porter Davis. And we had hit it off on a couple of shows, talking, and played some shows together on the same bill. And one day it just kind of came up that he said, I was thinking about opening this Austin guitar school. And I was like, wow, I have a studio, I teach, but just my own little private practice. So we got to talking about that, and we said, well, why don't we call it, instead of, I'm sorry, I misspoke. It was Red Leaf Guitar School, I think is what he had. And so we decided on Red Leaf School of Music because we wanted to encompass
more than just guitar. Sure.
And so we found this place here at 4800 South 1st Street. It was the first place we looked at. And we just started working on the business and trying to put that together. So that was in 2007. So and we opened in April of that year. So this year will be 9 years.
Wow.
That I've been here doing it. Dan and I were together here for about 3 years, and then he kind of went off on his own to do a recording studio. So he's got a place called Rubicon.
Okay, yeah,
right,
absolutely.
And I think he's doing a Ruthie Foster record there right now.
There are quite a few.
He's doing great work.
Yeah, there are quite a few good albums that have come out of there.
And then I've recorded 2 of mine there. So I mean, like, we've gone on to maintain a great friendship, and he's doing well with his thing. And I just I bought him out of the Red Leaf part, and I don't think either one of us could have started this whole thing on our own. Yeah. We kind of needed each other to kind of buoy the whole thing.
Yep.
But it was it just seemed like kind of the right time to take that step forward. And so to answer your question, that was pretty long-winded.
That's right.
To answer your question, really though, that's kind of at the time when I thought I could do it. And then after I had a few years on my own, by the time we opened it, then I'd already been teaching a few years, so I was comfortable.
Yeah, a little bit more confident in what you were doing.
And I learned
everything else.
I learned a lot about interacting with folks from a teacher-student perspective. And at the same time, it also made me step up my game too.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to teach, I have to keep.
So I thought you got to keep up with the Joneses in the pod next to you.
I felt it was
when you're playing. Yeah.
Yeah. I always felt that it was a great way to keep a guitar in your hands every day.
Yep.
Okay. And you would learn by teaching. And so that was part of it. Now, the part I didn't count on that became the most rewarding part was, especially with the younger folks, is taking the little bit that you know and passing that on to somebody that's going to probably outlive you.
Yeah.
And you hear them kind of playing a little bit like you in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
And some of that I've had that have stuck with it long enough, they've really kind of carried it on.
Yeah.
And that's really, that's an amazing gift to be a part of, to watch some kid that you start when was like 10 or 12 years old, and then all of a sudden they're driving to lessons.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, they're in a band, and now they're out, and one of them's like playing ACL or like touring in Japan. That's a pretty heavy.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Now, I didn't know that gratification would really happen when I first started. So that was like a beautiful kind of bonus.
It is a beautiful blessing whenever it happens. I taught for many, many years, and just all of about 5-6 years ago in Houston went to be put into the Knights of Columbus for my 4th degree, and we were on the bus on the way to the ceremony and just talking to a guy next to me, and hear this voice from the seat in front like, "Oh, did you say your name was Chris Jordan from St. John Vianney?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "You taught me 7th grade CCE, and I got to tell you, the things you taught me completely changed my life. Yeah. Like, completely changed everything I was doing, the friends I hung around. Like, I would not be here right now if it wouldn't have been for those classes." Like,
that's a powerful statement.
It is. It is. I mean, it's pretty incredible to have.
It's humbling to hear it, right? I mean, it's like at first I don't even know if I knew how to take it. You know what I mean? It was like, it's so, that's like maybe the highest compliment that somebody could give you.
Exactly. And to know that like you have changed somebody's life.
Or had a little part in it. Or
had any part in it.
Yeah,
you put water on the plant at some point, whatever. Yeah. It is absolutely an amazing and visceral experience when it happens. And, it's a true moment of joy. Yeah. It's great to be able to foster that and keep that going.
That's been my favorite part.
Yeah. Yeah, and it truly grows to be your favorite part, despite all of the work, effort, the headache and heartache that goes into it. Because you have students that come and go,
Yeah, sure.
I mean, how often, I guess a really good question for you would be is, how often do you have new students coming into you? Mm-hmm. And how often do they stay with it? Let's say, because most people I know that have quit guitar, like have a guitar in their closet, was normally up around 6 months, where they were like, just like enough, So when do you normally see that fall off for new students, if they do fall off?
Well, that's a good question. I would love to give you like a numbers answer. I'm not really like a big numbers guy. I don't really track that stuff. Because I don't know. I guess I'm just not that into it. But I mean, I would say that, at the extreme, I've had people call and, not show up.
Oh, sure.
And then I've had some people for 7 years.
Yeah.
So and all points in between of that. So, I mean, I would say that, most people end up being a couple years. And, yeah, I mean, I guess, I don't know. I've never really put like a pen to paper on, what the kind of the attrition rate is.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. I guess doing web design and things like that, those kind of numbers have matriculated into my brain with Google Analytics.
Well, if I was probably a better business owner, I probably should know that. But the reality of it is I don't really measure my life in numbers. So
so
for me, it's really good to just I'm just happy to keep people interested in doing it. And as long as they want to come and learn, I'm there. And I'm almost, also kind of a balanced person. And so like, as I've gotten a little older, what's really cool is I can play in a couple of bands, still write songs, still record the occasional album or single or whatever you want to do. And then still teach 2 or 3 days a week here and run the school. I need kind of all of that going in order for me to feel kind of complete. Yeah. When I'm just out on the road all the time and just playing gigs all the time, I think over the years I would have not lasted. I'd have burned out at that. And if I was just teaching all the time and not playing gigs, that wouldn't have worked either. Yeah. Like I kind of need both of those. So I enjoy having the students for as long as I have them, and I try to do everything I can to keep them interested and give them maybe a little bit of inspiration to maybe understand that if they stick with it, that they can really get something out of it for long term, for the rest of their life, not this semester. Yeah. But like a long term thing, and then they could pass it on too. Like that's really what I try to teach them. Is it like hey. You're learning and doing this. This is something you're going to be able to show somebody someday.
Well, exactly. It's something like I've passed instruments along to my nephew, and he decided to play viola in the orchestra, and he was like, hey, I really want to learn guitar. And I was like, all right, I have a guitar that I can give you.
Right.
I have no problem with that. I want you to stick to viola. You get to where you're within the first few chairs of viola, something like that, we'll absolutely get you started on some guitar lessons. Right. But I want to see the stick-to-itiveness with one instrument before you move to another one. Yeah. And I want to see you excel, start learning some fundamentals like music theory, things that Uncle Chris does not know, that this will teach you. Like, you will learn transcription being a viola player. Right. Whereas being a guitar player, you just go out and get the guitar chords. You're all right. And now, are you personally with your method and with yourself, were you somebody that actively used tabulature? Or
not
were
a tab guy.
No? Okay, yeah.
Because I don't read it often enough, which means I'm too slow at it. Like it just takes me, I'd rather just listen to it. And I also really try... I tell my students, I don't want you to just be a guitar player. I want you to be a musician.
Exactly.
Like, I really try to get people to learn to listen, and I'm listening to them too. Like, that's another thing is like I think being a good teacher is really being a good listener.
Oh yeah.
I've had a lot of times where you're almost like a counselor to people. They come for that 1 hour or that 30 minutes. It's like maybe they had a bad day, and there's been times where they didn't even pick the guitar up and just needed somebody to talk to.
Yeah.
It happens, and that's real life,
Yeah.
And but I really try to teach them to just kind of listen and give them some fundamentals to where they're not overplaying and they're kind of like serving the song and trying to play a part that actually kind of makes sense, and learn to play in time and learn to play in tune and change chords, and you can do a lot with just knowing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And don't skip over that kind of thing. Because, as a kid, I skipped all of that. I just wanted to try to play like Chuck Berry.
Yeah.
Or or
just
Scotty Moore.
Just learn lead licks.
Yeah, I was just trying to like figure something out, where nowadays, like as I'm teaching, I'm like, use a metronome.
Yep.
Because, you build your internal clock. Well, then when you go to play in a band or you go to play with a drummer,
that's it.
All of a sudden,
hearing the downbeat naturally.
You know what's happening, and so really those kind of fundamentals instead of just, what I call, kind of lazy teaching, which is like, well, what do you want to do this week?
Yeah, what lick do you want to learn? What have you been listening to on the radio?
I almost never ask a student what they want to work on, because
good.
It doesn't mean that they're not able to do that with me.
Yeah.
But I'm not a real big method guy. I don't teach out of a book.
Yep.
I don't give them a ton of handouts. I kind of just draw things as we're going so they can see how it goes together. If to make notes and so they have something to reference.
Yeah.
But beyond that, I kind of just take each student individually, and because everyone learns differently.
Yeah.
So I learn about them, they learn about me, and I'm like, I always ask them like, where have you been, where are you at, and where would you like to go?
Yep.
And if I know
Exactly.
that, then I can try to help you get there.
Yeah. I could not have put it better, because that's really the scope that even whenever I help people design websites, help them do start podcasts, whatever, you have to know those things ahead of time. You can't figure them out on the way.
Right.
You've at least got to have some general direction to start shooting in,
Right.
Instead of a shotgun. One of my really good friends, Thomas Metz, moved down here from Maine a few years ago, and has taken the evolution finally to being a guitar instructor. And I'm so entirely happy for him for making that move. He is one of those people, as I've gotten older, I've truly started to find the definition between musician and artist. Mm-hmm. And I say it on here frequently, I'll say it again. To me, an artist is someone like myself who makes a ton of music. Like, I've got 30 plus hours of music on the internet. I keep making it. None of it's for sale. I just make music. Go enjoy my music, share it, tell the whole world about my music. Yeah. Maybe someday someone will pay me. I'll keep making it whether that happens or not. A musician is much more like I am with my audio-video trade. They're a tradesman. They are out there on the daily plying their trade, whether it's like Tom, where he's teaching during the day, playing jazz on a Wednesday night, playing 80s rock on a Friday night. He's out there playing different styles, doing different things, stretching himself to learn and make a better foundation to teach other people. And, to me, that's the definition between a musician and an artist. Musicians are people that really get out there, get after it. Someone like you who's playing, teaching, actively pursuing that on the daily.
I'll agree with that, yeah.
And
it's you know what the thing is, both of those are completely valid.
Absolutely.
And that's the cool part. I admire folks that are doing something just for their own pure enjoyment.
Yeah.
And the money and all those things, you need money to live. But aside from that, the enjoyment of me playing a small gig in someone's backyard or playing at the House of Blues in Houston.
Yeah.
Those are two different feelings, but I joke with one of the bandmen all the time. The notes, I play the same notes, regardless of where I'm doing that. So
the way it translates to the crowd is totally up to the crowd, and totally up to the vibe of the room and the vibe on stage.
Well, when I first started, you don't have confidence at all at first. I had lacked confidence terribly, because when I moved here, I didn't sing at all. I hadn't written a song yet. I just played guitar not very well, and that's all I did. I was okay at best. And when I got here, I really knew how bad I was, because everybody, like I said, was
every
so good.
fifth dude plays guitar.
Way better than you.
Literally.
And so the confidence was tough, but my heart was really in it to try. And so I just kind of kept working towards it. And I'm still doing that, but the main thing is like, maybe you'd show up at a gig 20 years ago, and if something didn't go right, or there wasn't very many people, or all those things, you could get really bummed out.
Well,
or something, with the club wasn't right, whatever, something on the business side of it wasn't right, and you could, it's real easy to kind of just go, man.
Just let it get on you.
And nowadays, I still want everything to go as best as it possibly can, but A, you get better at problem solving, and B, you get more confident in what you're doing, and realize that
it's going to be a good show anyway.
We are, we are not, launching rockets here.
Yeah.
We're playing music, and if something isn't perfect, that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
As long as you're having a good time and the people are having a good time, I don't think anybody goes home and dissects what they just saw, except the people doing it.
Yeah, maybe some of us sound guys do. I will admit that.
Yeah.
Some of us sound guys do go home and kind of dissect it, especially if it's a band that we enjoy and that we work with regularly, you know.
Of course. And I'm saying the musicians always do that.
But
I try to do that as little as possible. I really try to like not get inside my own head, because then I'm playing from here instead of here.
Yep.
And so, you know, live, I just go for it. And how that art comes out in that moment is what it is. And to me, that's the beauty of playing live.
Yeah.
You know, there's not really a net there. And as you get older, you get a little more confident, and you don't really, just because a little breeze comes along, it doesn't knock you off the high wire.
That's it.
Like you can adjust and keep going, you know?
Yeah.
So I've just been absolutely blessed to be able to be here so long and do it. Even, you know, just incredible.
Well, how many teachers are you all up to now at Redleaf School of Music?
Mm-hmm.
And where are y'all going next? What's the next step for Redleaf?
We have 6 teachers aside from me, and it's, you know, bass, drums, piano, voice, you know, guitar. I mean, it's, you know, we have a nice group of teachers over there. We've focused mainly in the last couple of years. We've kind of changed, you know, it's kind of changing into mostly private lessons. We do some group things. We used to do a lot of like semester-long group classes where you'd play a show at a venue at the end.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we did that for about 6 years, and maybe 7 years actually. And we would do a fall and a spring, and then in the summer we would do Redleaf Rocks. Like the summer, we called it Redleaf Rocks. It was a
sure, just like a little concert series featuring all of it.
Have a camp for 2 weeks and have them play a show at the end.
Groovy.
So we did that for a long, long time, and but in the last couple of years, I've just gotten so busy doing everything else, and I'd done it so many times. Like I kind of felt like I was ready to not do that for a while. Yeah. And I said, you know what? I just want to teach my students. I just want to teach privately, and because the group classes take a lot of energy. They take a lot of work. Setting up with the venues and going to do all that. I think it was really cool. We proved we could do it. We did it for 7 years, and then I'm kind of like on to a new challenge, or a new phase, you know. So
absolutely,
kind of was time for me to kind of maybe add more live playing and studio work for me, and then just do the private lessons, and you know, only so many hours in a day.
That's it.
You know,
that's it.
So kind of moved away from that, but I'm real proud that we did that. I mean, like we got to have a lot of amazing moments with the kids doing that, and the adults, because we had adult group classes too. And I don't really know if there's anybody else doing that at the time, but we'd have adults doing it, and it was great.
And that's just it. It's kind of like I told my buddy Tom whenever he was like, I don't know if I want to go teach a bunch of kids music. I was like, dude, it's not just kids. You have to think, you are in a town of musicians. Do you realize like how many people have been playing guitar for 20 years and only know one style?
Yeah.
Not everybody is like early mid-30s and knows like 8 different styles of music.
Or,
you know, and can teach 8 different styles of music. Like, that's a panoply of styles to be able to teach people.
Well, and, you know, to simplify it even more than that, a lot of the adult students that I get are just like, got married, like used to play, got married, had a couple of kids, they work at Dell.
Yeah.
And they work very hard. And when they're done working and the kids are off at
karate or whatever,
wherever they're at, that's their hour to come over there and reconnect with something just for them.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And so I think that's a pretty big audience just with people that do that. There's a lot of just hardworking folks that play a little that would like to reconnect with it.
Yeah.
You know, it's not necessary that they want to learn like a whole new genre or go get in a band.
Yep.
Some do.
Yeah.
But a lot of them just want to come and have an hour to themselves where they can actually reconnect with the instrument.
Yep.
Because other priorities have taken over.
Absolutely. Now, where can people connect with Redleaf School of Music? What's the website?
Yeah.
How can they get in touch with you or any of the other teachers to take lessons?
Yeah. www.redleafschoolofmusic.com. And 512-444-4769 is the number, and that goes direct to me.
Right there on the bottom of the screen, folks.
All right. And then, let's see, where else? So, well, we're at 4800 South 1st Street, as you know.
Yep, right next to the Austin Music Rooms.
Yes. And so that is on South 1st Street between Ben White and Stastny, for everyone that isn't familiar with that.
Yeah.
And like I said, we're going into year 9. We're getting ready to launch a new website here shortly. And great group of teachers. You can go online and see the bios for all the instructors that we have. And, reach out to us. We love to keep it going, And other than that, for me, I'm playing in 2 bands right now.
Where can we hear that music?
Okay, so first one is brand new. It's called the Jailbirds. And it is a rock and roll boogie blues 5-piece piano, guitar, bass drums. And we just started playing this month. And we're doing everything from Albert Collins to ZZ Top.
Wow.
But almost all of it like danceable rock and roll blues stuff. And we have a month-long residency at the Craftsman Bar on East Cesar Chavez.
Okay.
Over there by Stay Gold.
Yep.
And we're doing every Thursday in February. And then the other band that I actually play bass in, is a Tom Petty tribute band called the Damn Torpedoes.
Yes.
And we have been at it for about 6.5 years with that band. So that band is already up and running.
Yeah,
and doing good things,
y'all play pretty big shows.
Yeah, we're around. Yeah,
yeah.
It's going great. I mean, the band is really continues, every year has gotten better. I'm not sure when this is going out, but
it'll be in a couple weeks.
Couple weeks.
Like
okay,
that,
well then I won't plug the shows that are coming up this weekend.
Unfortunately.
Okay, but anyway, you can find us on Facebook, the Jailbirds and the Damn Torpedoes. It's modern age. They can find
That's
us.
it. Absolutely. And while you're online checking those out, please make sure to stop on by the Talking Sound Podcast, talkingsoundpodcast.com or talkingsoundshow.com will get you to the same place. That's where you can find all of the interviews with local musicians from abroad, artist interviews, as well as the latest industry news from people like Rupert Neve, Ableton Live, Vox Instruments, all kinds of stuff is there. We have a huge number of RSS feeds now. It's absolutely great. It's a great way to stay on top of industry news. And man, I'd just like to say thank you so much for coming on. I'd love to have you on regularly and even interview some more of your teachers, things like that.
Oh, we would love to do that.
And
anytime.
I'd love to have you and the band on as well.
Well, we'll absolutely come back anytime. And this is proof it's good to know your neighbors.
That's it. That's what neighbors are all about, literally. You have no idea who lives next to you until you go to meet them. It's like, hey, how you doing?
Or one of your pedals breaks.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it's all about. Well, once again, everybody, this is Geno Stroia. Thank you so much for coming on. I'm Chris Jordan, your host. And until next time, keep reaching for 11. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
This is Talking Sound.